Welcome to the Inflamed Sisters Thriving Podcast, a safe space created to guide women living with chronic illness to uncover their purpose by doing what they were meant to do, move in power by advocating for themselves in all aspects of life, and accelerate growth in their health, most importantly, and then career and business. You will learn how to stop hiding and start thriving. We will inspire, educate, and motivate you as we show you Inflamed Sisters thrive together always. Welcome again. And as you know, my name is Katina Morrison, the host of the Inflamed Sisters Thriving podcast. And today I have the amazing guest, Ebonee Debrah. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hello, Katina. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. We're going to have an amazing episode.
I am excited. I know we are. I always enjoy talking with you. And let's introduce you, please, to our guest.
Sure. My name is Ebonee Debrah. As you mentioned, I am a married mom of six, currently residing in Texas. I also own a business called Literary Light Publishing. And in my business, I help aspiring authors write their first book. And I'm also a book consultant. So if anyone needs assistance with the book writing and publishing process, I help them with that through my business. And then in my career, I'm actually a business analyst, and that helps take care of those six kids. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yes, sis, you busy. You
Yeah, I'm
real
busy.
busy. And that's you're just like me, having a career and a business. It can be such a busy life, but you also have, say that again, how many kids?
I have six kids. I have six.
Okay, so I won't even say I'm busy. I often say, let's change the dialogue and say, I'm not busy, but I get to do the things that I love to do.
Yes.
By also doing some of the things I, wish I didn't have to do, like having a full time career at times. But the truth is, I think both of us have found a way to have a full time career and a business that is both satisfying to us. And
Exactly.
so that's what I've been loving. So that's why I always say, okay, Tina, don't say you're busy, girl. You get to do the things that you enjoy to do so that you can continue to work towards living the life of your dreams. Um,
Exactly.
and I love so much about your story and who and what has brought you to the point you are in your life. In combination with all of the beautiful things that you have going on, such as your beautiful children that I enjoy seeing. Tell me, in recent years, something happened to you that
Hmm.
changed your life. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So 3 years ago, which was March 2019, I was severely burned in a house fire, a fire that started in my kitchen. And I was severely burned on my face and my body. And that was a very traumatic experience that pretty much changed my life. It changed everything I understood to be true in my life, and it made me rethink how I wanted to um, approach the things that I was passionate about. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But back to the accident. The fire that started in my kitchen, it burned me in my face. And then I was right next to the fire when it started. And when the flames burst from the stove, it burned me in my face. And then the oil that was in the pot, I actually knocked the oil off the stove, and it burned my arms and my torso and my legs. I was rushed in an ambulance to the hospital, where I was placed in a medically induced coma for several weeks, almost 4 weeks, where they did a lot of surgeries and they took a lot of the healthy skin off of my back and my stomach and my legs, and they took that skin and they placed it over the burned areas. So when I actually came to in the hospital, I was totally bandaged from head to toe. totally bandaged. My head, my hands, my body, my feet, everything was bandaged. And I came to the realization that this accident was a lot more serious than I thought it was when it actually happened in the kitchen. I didn't realize the severity and the extent of the damage and how that was going to impact my life, and the stages of recovery. There were so many different stages of recovery that I had to go through as a burn survivor, because burns really wreak havoc on your body. They really cause a lot of devastation to even things that you wouldn't realize, um, things that you wouldn't even realize it affected. Like, it affected so many things, and I'll talk about that. I don't know if we want to switch back over to you, or if you wanted me to go directly into that.
This is the thing. I wow, I love everything that you shared in reference to your story. Why I love it is because you are in a place now that you are transparent.
Yeah.
You went through all of that and you found a way to share your story in order to be an encouraging inspiration to others
Mhm.
who have been through similar traumas.
Mhm.
In recent months or several months ago, I featured you in my blog, the Essential Journey Spotlight, because of how amazing your journey was. So, those of you who are listening, make sure that you check out that blog for her that is on my website that explains just how inspirational she is and the impact that she's having on so many lives. But yes, when you talk about the things that change, you describe the whole process, and you're right, being a burn victim and the way that it can change, of course, the way that your appearance is, the way that it can change the way that you look and see yourself, and then on top of it, the pain that is associated with it. Um, what are some of the things that it helped you to go through?
So some of the things that it helped me go through. Well, so since we're going to do this podcast, I'm just going to be transparent, because I think that's the goal of having these episodes, so people can understand what real life looks like. And so before the burn accident, I struggled with my self image and my self esteem, and that was even before being burned. I struggled with my appearance. I struggled with my weight. I struggled being comfortable with myself. And I look back on those days now and I'm like, girl, what were you struggling for? But we all have our insecurities, and we all have things that have happened to us, traumatic things, maybe in our childhood or our young adulthood, that affected how we saw ourselves, that affected our confidence and our self esteem. So even before the burn accident, I struggled with my self esteem and my self image, how I viewed myself and my confidence. And then after I got burned, it was like I had no choice but to face those things, because now my appearance was affected. And like I said earlier, I had burns all along the front of my body, and then they took skin from the back of my body to place it over the front where it was burned. And so I had scars from head to toe, front and back. And so it wasn't a matter of me, I couldn't hide it because they were everywhere. I couldn't hide it, and I didn't want to hide it. Even though I struggled with my self esteem, I didn't want to continue my life hiding behind clothes, hiding behind, um, I have a tracheotomy scar on my neck where I was hooked to a ventilator. And one of my really good friends told me at the time, when I was talking about the scar on my neck, she was like, girl, you can just wear scarves. You can just buy a bunch of cute scarves and you can wear that and no one will ever know. And I didn't want to live that life of hiding. So the burn accident, it helped me confront the issues that I had with self esteem and self worth and confidence, because I had no choice but to either be confident or not. And right after the burn accident, when I was in the recovery process, um, I was extremely depressed, extremely depressed. I was depressed because my appearance had changed. I was depressed because my physical abilities had changed. My hands were burned. I used to braid hair. I used to do hair. I couldn't do that anymore. It was difficult for me to walk. In the hospital, they had to take me through the process of walking again. So the first time I walked again, I only took 9 steps, and that was it. That's all I could do. And then every day we would set a goal, like you're going to walk to the nurse's desk. And then you're going to walk around, after a few days of walking to the nurse's desk, you're going to walk around the floor, just walk in a circle back to your room. So when I got home, there was a lot of things that had changed appearance wise, but my physical ability, I couldn't bathe myself. My husband had to bathe me and unwrap the bandages and put all my ointments on and cut away skin that was dying, because for the longest time, skin was continuing to fall off and shed and peel. And he would have to cut all that away and put ointments on me and wrap myself up. So for the longest time, I couldn't even bathe myself. And so what the burn accident did in the process of recovering is I had to fix my mindset and the way I viewed myself. And I learned how to be confident no matter what I looked like, how to be confident no matter how I felt people saw me. I had to realize the way I see myself is most important. And I had to realize if I present a confident appearance or a confident persona, that people are going to accept me the way I present myself. Most people, you have one or two, but most people are going to accept me the way I present myself. So if I'm presenting myself with my head down and ashamed and hiding, that's the way people are going to perceive me. But if I present myself with a confident exterior that comes from a confident interior, then it's going to be a totally different social interactions are going to be totally different.
Wow, sis.
Hmm.
Like, you just, when I said transparency and
Yeah.
vulnerability, the amount that you just expressed in that is going to touch so many people, because I have known you for a period of time, and I
Hmm.
know that this has been a journey. But
Yes.
the beautiful part of you is how in that you explained, even from the beginning, before you even had the burns,
Hmm.
you struggled with self confidence, which is something that many of us do. I agree with you, and I understand you in that sense. That traumas that I experienced also in my childhood, the the things that you go through when you happen to be a darker skinned woman, how people would pick on me as a child, I struggled with that.
Hmm.
That little girl that had the gap in between her teeth before she got braces, at times I was still that girl who was struggling with those things until I had that shift in mindset that you discussed.
Hmm.
You just laid so many things bare that in the moment I was actually having to grip my emotions a bit because
Yeah.
I felt all the parts of that. But I'm going to tell you something that I've told you many times.
Hmm.
You're such a beautiful woman.
Thank you.
And the most beautiful part of you, besides your exterior being beautiful, is the inside of you, because your spirit, your soul, it brings such a calm and such a feeling of home.
Mm.
I just don't know how to explain it, but when I hear your voice and when I'm in your presence, it's like I'm home with I'm with someone who really is a true, loving, compassionate, empathetic person. And your experience, even though you were that person was who you was very likely beforehand, your
Mhm.
experience has brought a level of empathy, a
Yeah.
level of calm and serenity, because that's what you had to have in order to be able to go through all of that.
Yes.
Um, and then you spoke about the way that you had to present yourself,
Yes.
that you had to present yourself with confidence so others would see you that way. Did you feel like for a period of time like you were putting on a mask per se? And how when did you pull that mask off?
Not necessarily a mask. Right after the burn accident and the months after that, the 6 to 9 month period after that, where I was recovering and my face was healing and my body was healing, I was so ashamed of myself. I would go to public places and I wouldn't make eye contact with people. I would go to doctor's appointments and I would just look down. I would go to restaurants and when I was ordering with the waiter or the waitress, I wouldn't look at them. I would just look at the menu. I didn't realize I was doing that until my daughter, who was like 18 at the time, she was like, "Mom, why aren't you looking at people when you talk to them?" I didn't realize I was doing it, but I was doing that. And I would avoid like social situations because I didn't want the uncomfortable feeling of people wondering what happened to me, either not being able to express it or not being able to say anything, so they just pretend like it's not there, which is almost as bad as, just rudely asking what happened, pretending like you don't see what is obviously there. And so I didn't want that situation on either ends of the spectrum. I didn't want to be sitting in front of someone. And my face is really healed now, and I have makeup on for those who are watching this video live and not, audio only. I have makeup on now. My face is really healed. But back at that point, I had scabs all over my face. I had light patches and dark patches, and I just looked really bad. And so to sit in someone's presence and for them to just talk to me and as if nothing has happened, it would make me feel, I don't know, it would just invalidate my reality in some kind of way that I can't explain. And I didn't want to put myself in those situations, even though it's not the other person's fault, because they don't know what's going on in my head and they're probably trying to be very respectful. But I didn't want to sit there with something obviously wrong with me and then have to interact with people who are just ignoring it. And then at the same time, I didn't want anybody to be like, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" Because I got some of those too. So to kind of circle back to the question, when I first was going out, I would be avoiding everything. I would be holding my head down. I would be trying to, walk through the back route so I wouldn't have to interact with people. And then it got to a point where I was like, Ebony, how long are you going to live like this? How long are you going to try to be in the background or stop living your life, stop showing up for things, events, parties, where you have to be around people? How long are you going to do that? You can't do it forever. So it's either you accept how you look and you accept everything that comes along with it, even people's reactions. And most people mean well, most people don't mean any harm, but not everyone knows how to approach a situation where someone has visible differences. And so that was kind of like the turning point where I was like, you know what? I can't change anything that has happened to me. I can't go to the store and get a new body. I can't, you know, as much as I want to pray and ask God to take me back 3 years, I couldn't do, or 2 years or 1 year at that point. I couldn't do that. So I just had to accept the body that I was in and learn how to show up in the world with this body that I have, which is an amazing body. This body has birthed 5 children. This body has been through hell. And right now, I sit here today healthy and recovered because of this body. But I never shared, I don't think I shared with you, Katina, that after the burn accident, I didn't have any health problems before, but afterward, I had diabetes, which was a direct result of the accident. Your body goes into, the state where, it's trying to heal and recover itself. So everything's out of whack. And I had the diabetes. I had to be on insulin for a while. Had nerve damage, where the burns, kind of burned through my nerve endings, which caused like severe itching for months, severe itching. And, I just had all of these side effects that the burn caused that my body overcame, that I overcame. So I had to appreciate this body. This body has been through so much, but it's still showing up, allowing me to be a mom to my kids, allowing me to experience life. So you know, I can't hide away and live in shame and be angry at the body that I have when really and truly it's an amazing body. So yeah.
And from your recent vacation pics, I will say
Yes.
it is an amazing body. Okay. If you haven't seen her on Instagram, which we'll have the details in the show notes, she is a beautiful woman.
Thank you.
Um, and I want to say to you that girl, I'm sitting here listening, and I'm getting a master class in things too,
Yeah.
in reference to the transition of things. You've taken us on a journey from where you were before to the truth is being in a better place as far as confidence and self and what how you view yourself now than you were then.
Hmm.
And that's a beautiful journey in itself to be a burn victim and experience everything that you have. And the truth is you are better now than you were before. And when it comes to how you see yourself, and women need to understand the importance of confidence, the importance of seeing ourselves as we really are. Sometimes it's hard for us to listen to what others say and really believe it because of those experiences we've had in the past. But when we're able to make those mindset shifts and finally see ourselves the way that God sees us, he didn't make any mistakes. And that's what I see in you. That is definitely what I see in you is that beauty that comes from not only within but also from above.
Hmm.
And in addition to that, you mentioned throughout this about how you hid yourself for a period of time and you didn't even realize it,
Hmm.
but your daughter was the one who brought that to your attention. That do you notice what you're doing? Wow, haven't that also shows sis the beautiful parenting and training that you did that
Hmm.
she turned around and was that person who said, "No, pull that head up, mom.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, you that's not how you raised me, and that's not how I'm going to allow you to live the rest of your life." Is that
Hmm.
how that made you feel?
That's exactly how it made me feel. And I love kids so much. I love kids so much because kids are some of the purest, most genuine human beings. And I saw that when I got burned because even though I looked totally different when I came home from the hospital than I did before I went into the hospital, my kids still loved me no differently. They still treated me just as the same. And, depending on your level of maturity or understanding of life as an adult, some people still judge people on the basis of appearance.
Mm-hmm.
But many children, they don't. Yes, they're very honest and they're going to call out what they see. If they see something different, they might call it out. But they're not going to mistreat you or they're not going to make you feel bad. They're going to love you regardless. They're very loving, forgiving beings. That's just how they come to earth. And so my children were a huge part of my recovery and how I was able to get some of my confidence back because they always treated me like I was mom and they always wanted me to show up. Even they had extracurricular activities going on, they had things going up, and they always wanted me to be there. And in my mind, I felt like I would be embarrassing to them. Like I didn't want anyone to make fun of them or make comments about what happened to your mom. Why does your mom look like that? But out of their mouths, they never said anything like that. And they made me feel just like I was mom. And so they were a huge part of my recovery. And another reason why I had to build my confidence is for my girls. I have four daughters, two of which are teenagers. Well, one is 20 now, so she just crossed that threshold. But I have four daughters, and a part of growing up is being comfortable with your body and the way you look, and your different quirks and your different things that make you unique. And sometimes it may be difficult for them to accept themselves. And the mom I was before, who couldn't even accept my own self, how could I teach them to accept themselves? So after I got burned, and when I got to the point where I was like, I have to show up confidently, I have to show up and just be myself and appreciate myself, this was a direct example for them to do the same. And I would often use it, when they would feel down about something, and I would say, you know what, I have this going on, and nobody's not going to tell me that I'm not fly or I'm not beautiful or I'm not worthy. So don't let anyone tell you the same thing. And so I'm like a living example for them. Even though I told them verbally before, like, you're everything you think that you are. So if you think you are amazing, you're amazing. If you think you're smart, intelligent, you're all of those things. Even though I told them that verbally, now they get to see me live it out, and it's a different level of it's a different kind of example for them. It's more. I think it's something that will stick with them a lot more than my words that didn't match my actions.
So, you didn't get the opportunity to join us at the Inflamed Sisters Thriving Summit in Gala. It was an amazing event. But don't worry, our next event is Saturday, November the 19th, 2022. It is the start of our Boss Brunch Networking Tour. This event will be hosted in Lakeland, Florida at the Lakeland venue. We will be discussing thriving with social media strategy. Yes, how can you balance your health, social media strategy, and business success? To learn more about this event, click the link in our bio. We would love to also thank our sponsors, Wahlberg, Waters Edge Essential Oils, and MU. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Actions speak louder than words, and our children follow our examples more than they follow what we say.
Yes.
Because parents can inadvertently be teaching their children to have a lack of confidence because they lack it themselves. And there
Right.
is no matter how much you tell your child how beautiful they are and how amazing and how intelligent they are, if they don't see that being reflected in your actions as the way you view yourself, then
Right.
that's exactly, you become a mirror of your children and they become a mirror of you.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have the most amazing reflection to show, because of how you were able to grow from what was a traumatic event. That traumatic event led to creating and redefining you as a person. And you're so right about that. Children, how genuinely loving and caring they are, how they see us as who we are, no matter how we look.
Mm-hmm.
You can be round here with your hair any kind of way and not made up or anything and feeling like you look like the worst thing. But guess what? One of your babies will come up and say, Mommy, you're so beautiful.
They will.
And that I've seen it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Even I haven't had the opportunity to become a mom myself, but I've
Mm-hmm.
had amazing niece and nephews,
Mm-hmm.
and I've adopted several nieces and nephews throughout my life, and that's one of the things is that love, that endless, boundless love of children, and the way that they see those that they love and who care for them and love them. It's just there's so much beauty in that.
It
And
is.
I'm so happy that you were blessed to have six amazing children, because I do believe that was a pivotal part in your healing.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, how beautiful is that? So this conversation took on took a journey that I was not sure that it was going to take. I'm going to be
Yes.
honest. But the importance of confidence. And then you did mention, as a result of your condition, you developed chronic illnesses, nerve damage, as well as diabetes. And how are you doing in reference to that, managing those now?
Yes. So by the grace of God, all of those things have been healed. It took a while. It took about a year or more than a year for my body to go back to like the normal baseline where it was before the accident. Um, but it those things did heal themselves. So after being diabetic and having to take insulin, eventually my body kind of understood the repair process, because your body is just pulling from everywhere to repair these burns. It's pulling, it's changing um, the way it functions in order to divert all of its energy, nutrients, and you know everything to the burns, because the burns, they need to heal, so everything goes out of whack. And so eventually, after a point, the diabetes went away. I thank God for that, because I woke up in the hospital and the nurse, she had a needle and she's like, "I'm here to give you your insulin." And I was like, "Insulin?" I was like, "I'm not diabetic." She's like, "Yes, you are." And I was like, "Oh my God," like just a crushing feeling. Like I was like, everything that could go wrong was going wrong. And then with the nerve damage, because the burns, they go through layers of your skin, depending on how deep it goes, it can burn the nerve endings, and as they grow back and they're trying to find their way, the brain reads that signal as itching. And I itched, Katina. I itched from morning to night. No amount of scratching, no amount of medication, no amount of anything will relieve that itching. And that itching almost took me out. Like worse than any pain I suffered, that itching almost took me out, because it just drives you literally crazy, because it's an itch that's never soothed. And so eventually that subsided, but that took months. That took months. And I don't even know how I made it through that. It was only by the grace of God, because some days I would just fall out on the floor and just scream and holler. Like there's literally nothing I could do but just scream, because it was just an unbearable itch. So that went away. Thank God. Um, there was a lot of changes. There was a lot of changes to my body that eventually went away. I had issues with my menstrual cycle. At first, after I got burned, I didn't have one for months. And then when it came back like with a vengeance. Like it came back so heavy, and I had never experienced that before. That literally, I would go, in the middle of my menstrual cycle, I would go to the doctor and they were like, you might need a blood transfusion if we can't get something to get this under control, because they would run my counts. I'm not versed in medical terminology, but they would run my counts and it would be so low, and they were like, if it gets to this point, you're going to need a blood transfusion. And so you know the it was like one thing after another, and I was like, goodness Lord, not only did I get burned, but then now I have to deal with this, and I have to deal with this, and I have to deal with this. And for the longest time, my voice, I had inflammation in my vocal cords because of the tracheotomy, which caused me to have a totally different voice than I had before. My voice is kind of smoothing out and it's getting better, but for anyone who knew me before, my voice is different. It's different. It's a little more raspy. It's not as smooth as it was before. So my voice is different. But right after the accident, when that tracheotomy came out and that scar tissue started to develop on my vocal cords and the inflammation around my vocal cords, I couldn't raise my voice to a certain level, because at a certain level I wouldn't have a voice anymore. So I couldn't yell, and then just my talking, it sounded very. I'm trying to look for another word besides raspy. It was almost like the sound was broken or choppy a little bit. And so that was another thing that was devastating, because they were like, you'll have to do speech therapy, but we don't know, with the amount of scar tissue on your vocal cords, if we can ever get your voice back the way it was. So just so many things. But like I said, by the grace of God, most of those things have corrected itself 3 years later. Still some small lingering effects here and there, but for the most part, I'm healthy, and I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful.
I am too. And then on top of that, what you just described is what the body does to heal itself through inflammation.
Oh,
And
okay.
inflamed sisters thriving, girl. That's
All right.
what your journey is. Exactly that
Yeah.
is your body to repair itself had to do things to, like you say, direct nutrients where it needed to be to heal. And part of the healing process creates that inflammation that
Yeah.
causes those types of things,
Yes.
including many people don't understand that how diabetes can result from traumatic events like this, but the way that the pancreas functions, the way that sugar functions within our body, it is necessary also for our healing, because when people have diabetes too, their healing processes are usually limited as
Right.
well.
Yes.
But as things improved, you saw that your healing process improved too. But your body was doing what it had to do, producing inflammation through many different areas to achieve what the ultimate goal was, which is you now,
Yes.
in your in the state of, in your healed state. So thank you for taking us through that journey too, because
Yes.
hey, that hit on the inflamed sisters thriving
Yes.
portion of it.
Yes.
So what I want to know now, this took you also to a journey of book writing.
Yes.
Tell me about that book writing journey and what you're doing now to help others.
Sure. Yes. So when I was in the hospital, and when I was going to physical therapy after getting out of the hospital, that was a very, very low point in my life, and I was very depressed, as I told you, even suicidal. Honestly, I was very suicidal, um, and they sent me home with a lot of medications, and sometimes I would just sit in my bed and I would look at the medicine, all the medicine bottles, and I would think, if I can just take all of this medicine and just end my suffering right now, I would do it. And then I would think, God forbid I take the medicine and I wake up in the hospital and I'm not on the other side. And it's sad to say, but that's the mental state I was in, and it was a very, very low state. I can't even describe how I felt, and I didn't want to get out of bed, and I would just think about that medication, and I would think, you know, if I take this medication and I end up back up in the hospital, I'm going to be angry. So I would sit there and I would just think about all the things, and I would think about my kids, and I would just pray, and it was just such a horrible state. So as I was trying to navigate that state of depression, and when I would pray and I would think about my life, I really believe it was God who would place it on my heart to seek out other people who had been through what I had gone through, to know that people do make it through, and it's not the end, and it's hard, and it's extremely difficult, but you can make it through. But the way you know that you can make it through is by seeing people who have been where you were, who did make it through. And the one of the best places I was able to learn about people who had been through what I had been through and made it through were books. So I bought all the books, like 12 books from just various burn survivors, who, male, female, all ethnicities, all walks of life, who have been through a similar situation as mine, who have been burned as an adult, um, who had a great life, and then just one day something happened, some tragic accident happened, and they were burned, and how they rebuilt their life. So I bought these books and I just started reading. I started reading these books cover to cover, and there were similarities in all of the books, but there were differences in all the books. But the similar theme in all the books is that it's going to be hard, but you can make it through. And on the other side, you can have an amazing life. The other side is not going to be what most people may think it is. And some of these burn survivors had very, very disfiguring burns. So maybe their whole face changed. My face still looks similar to what it did before, minus, a few scars. But some had very disfiguring injuries where they look completely different than they did before. And they still found a way to show up in the world, living their best life as their best self, unapologetically, doing amazing things. And, each book I read gave me a little piece of hope that it's possible. And so I was always a writer. And what I would do, to kind of take my mind off of the itching, is I would just write. I would get my laptop and I would write poetry. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with the poetry, but I would just write, whatever came to mind. And it was very therapeutic for me, and it was very healing. So I would sit out on my patio in this patio chair that had this particular fabric on the back where I could just I could just scratch my back, and I would just scratch it like I would rock side to side, and I would just type my poetry. And it just made me feel better than just sitting there with the itching and the pain to put my mind into something. And before I knew it, hours had passed, and I had, written, a few poems, and I felt happy. I felt like I was in a happy place. And then months of this had passed, and I had so much poetry that I decided to put it into a book and publish my first book. And that was such an amazing experience for me, because even though I didn't have the skills at that time, I wanted to do everything because it was therapeutic for me and it was healing for me. So I, did the illustrations on the inside of the book. I did the cover. I did, the formatting. I did, everything to publish that book start to finish, because like I said, it was healing. It was a healing process for me. So between reading books from people who were gracious enough and kind enough to share their vulnerable story with the world, and writing my own book, I realized that books have so much power to help people to do good. Whether you're the author and you're writing the book and it's healing you through the writing process, or you're the person who's reading the book and you're becoming healed through someone else's story, I realized that this vehicle to get information to people is something that God has given us to help, to do good in the world. Which is the reason why I named my publishing company Literary Light Publishing, because I feel like we all have a light to shine. We all have a light. We all have something to give. We all have something to share with this world to make it a better place, to help people through difficult times. And so that led me into the book coaching role, because after I did all of those things for my own book, I was well versed in how to do these things, and I kept learning and I kept researching about this publishing process to perfect my process so that I could duplicate it in the future, and then I could also help other people. Because after I published my poetry book, people, I had various people ask me, "Well, can you help me?" And I'm like, "Sure, I can help you." But at that time, I just liked the process, so I helped a lot of people, no charge, just because I liked the process, which led into the book coaching, and then I took an official book coaching program, so that I can learn really the nitty gritty ins and outs of everything, and which led to my publishing company. So it was all God's greater plan. And one thing I will say about the accident is I would never go back and change a thing. I would not change one thing. At a point in time during my journey, I did want to go back to the way things were before. But 3 years now, where I sit today, I would not change anything, because it made me a better person. It helped lead me to my purpose, which I believe I do have a purpose of helping people write books and publish books, and then also to continue writing myself. So it led me to my purpose, made me a better person, and it just made me see life completely different.
Wow, sis. Wow.
Hmm.
And I love your book.
Oh, thank you.
No
Thank you.
one knows her name.
Yes.
Please find it on, it's available on Amazon, but there may be other routes, which I will have in the links in the show note. But I
Mhm.
did want to show that to everyone. Any book you write, I will be getting. So
Um,
please give us the link so that I can add that into the show notes. And I do believe that you are walking in your purpose as you should, doing what you were really meant to do. And as when we started off this, when I said that we have to change our narratives, that we're getting
mhm,
to do the things that we love to do,
mhm.
and so that we can live the life of our dreams. That's exactly what you are accomplishing. So, congratulations on the journey that you have been on and where it has led you now. I know
Mhm.
you have a beautifully amazing journey ahead of you, and I'm so glad that I get to be a person who gets to see that journey, and to have come to know you and to call you my friend as well. It is such a privilege. So
Yes.
tell us where we can find you, so that we can stay in contact.
Sure. Before I do that, I just want to give you your flowers, Katina. I think you're an amazing person. You are so kind. You're so loving. You're so compassionate. And everybody who interacts with you says the same thing, that you're just such a wonderful, sweet soul. And I just need to let you know that, because I don't know if anybody ever just comes out and says it in the middle of a podcast, but you need to know that. And people can find me online. I'm on Instagram, just my name, Ebonee Debrah. Facebook, Ebonee Debrah. Twitter, Ebonee Debrah. YouTube, Ebonee Debrah. And then my website for my publishing company is www.literarylightpublishing.com. So that's where I can be found online. And if anyone is interested in book publishing or book coaching, I have an Instagram business page with the same name. It's literary light underscore publishing, and that's my business Instagram.
Thank you so much. And I had, when you were saying that, my eyes started to rain just a bit. Because that's what I want to be known for, is my
Yeah.
compassion and empathy. I'm a nurse through and through, but
Yeah.
I'm also a person who happens to be an inflamed sister in many ways, and who has had a similar journey to you,
Mm-hmm.
minus the burns. I've had a very similar journey, and
Mm-hmm.
also a burn incident of my own that people
You
don't know
told me.
about.
You told me.
That I still carry those scars, but I that's what I want to be known as, and that's what I love to associate with, is women that are just like that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the purpose of this podcast, was to bring women together who have journeys and stories that can essentially help others to be able to live their lives in a way that they can thrive.
Mm-hmm.
So you are telling me, sis, that I am on doing well on that journey, and I
Yes.
receive it, and I'm going to
Yes.
keep on going.
Yes.
It's hearing those words that keep me pushing forward. And I want you to keep doing the same, because
Mm.
sis, you are shining,
Thank
okay?
you. Thank you.
And thriving.
Thank you.
So at the end of each podcast, I always say, prior to saying that, make sure you follow her and follow her journey, and like and subscribe on any of the podcast outlets, as well as YouTube, this particular episode. But make sure you go over to her page and check her out and follow her. You're going to enjoy all the things that you see, and then also be able to be in a part of the audience as she continues to thrive. But as I said, as I end each podcast, I say, my sisters, we may be inflamed, but we're still here. And as
Mm.
long as we are here, let's thrive together, because inflamed sisters thrive together always. Thank you all for listening, and I look forward to having you again. Take care.